Right, now my opponents have made some very good claims, and they've given some very good examples prior to Obamacare being enacted. One being, what if you didn't have healthcare prior to Obamacare being enacted? What would happen if you did get into an accident? Those thousands of dollars that would have to go into CAT scans, those thousands more that would go into other types of scans, paying for your CATs, paying for your doctors, paying just to see him prior to seeing what's wrong with you. What would happen for that ambulance? Now, the problem is that we're assuming that there was nothing in place. That if you were 20 years old, 26 years old, or 27, just out of having insurance, you were living on your own maybe, and you got injured, what would happen? How would you pay for this? Would you be stuck in poverty for the rest of your life? The problem is that there was already plans in place that stopped this from ever happening. If you were to get injured, it's not expected that you would have had to pay all this on your own and you would have never gotten out of it. That's what you pay taxes for, to help everyone else out. There's already plans in place to stop this from happening. Secondly, he points out that there would be $771 billion generated, which would be from the whole time being of 2012 to 2024, $771 billion generated, but that doesn't take off the fact that, yes, it could cost anywhere from 1.3 trillion to 2.1 trillion. It's still not fully placed in stone. Like I had mentioned earlier, that the website alone would cost $550 million to fix. That would be $550 million that would be added to that budget that we still don't know fully what is this going to cost. So there's a reason that it's not set in stone. There's things that have to be fixed still. But with that $771 billion generated, if it went from $2.1 trillion, which it would have cost, there would still be $1.4 trillion to pay. And if it was $1.4 trillion, there would still be $700 billion left to pay that we as a people would have to pay for. So yes, some money would be generated, but that doesn't take out the fact that that money does not cover what the cost of it would be. On top of that, yes, they had mentioned that millions of people have joined, which is saying why this program is going to work. Yes, we have all these people in place, they're all part of this program, everything's going to work out fine. But the problem is, like I had mentioned earlier, 80% of them still have yet to pay for having joined yet. So yes, they signed up, they went online, they put their name in, they may have called the various ways that you can do it. But that's just saying, hey, I'm ready, but no one's taken out a wallet to pay for it yet. So there's no money actually coming in to help continue this program. They had also mentioned, well, if you're under 26 years old, now your policy will, if you're under 26 years old, now your policy, if you're living with your parents, will continue. Prior it was 24 years old. But outside of that, there is still premiums that have been added, not just if you're 25 years and older and younger, which was 41% increase, but what if you're 30 years and younger? It drops to 35%, which is still quite a lot. Now let's just look at the average income. We'll just stick with Arizona in this case. Assuming that you have an average income of $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, $40,000, you'd have to pay different deductibles, and you'd have to pay different premiums. Now, let's say you're 30 years old. You're obviously not living in your parents' insurance anymore, and you only make $30,000 a year. All right. Now that's the average income of a preschool teacher in Arizona. Let's say you make this much. Now Obamacare would run you about $2,772 at the end of the year, which doesn't sound like too much. It's only $2,000 out of your $30,000, but that doesn't count for the cost of deductibles. If you actually go to the hospital, that you still have to pay for, those can actually add up to $5,200 that will cap off to. So, assuming that you go to the hospital, even though it only costs, this is all according to the healthcare section of Forbes, even though you only would spend $2,424, there's still a potential use of $5,000 that you would have to pay should you go and use the hospital, should you go and use your plan that you're paying for. That's $7,000 out of your $30,000 that you're making. That's a huge chunk of money if you're living almost below the poverty line. Thank you.